and welcome back to another video with Scripting is Fun in our series on how to make a platform game. In this video we're going to be adding the game over part of our game. When we run out of lives, we want a little menu to pop up and tell us that our game is over and give us the option to quit our game or go back and try again. So first we're going to go into our player script, and in the player script, inside the OnClick function where we're checking to see if we run into enemies and take health away. Currently we're checking to see if we've ran out of health. If so, we're taking one away from our lives, and then we're just kind of resetting everything and respawning. But right here we put a note to check to see if we're out of lives. So this is the time where we're going to jump in here and add that functionality in. So we're going to check to see if lives is less than or equal to 0. Then if that's the case, then we actually don't want to do any of this. We actually want to go load up our game over stuff. Okay, so then what we'll do here is we'll just do an else down here, and we'll go ahead and put all of these lines here. So I'm just going to cut and paste those up here into the else. So whenever we run out of health, we'll take one away from lives. If lives is less than or equal to 0, we're going to do our game over things. And if it's not, we'll go ahead and do our respawning type things. And actually, we're going to want to actually move all of these lines back out of here. So move those back down. So basically, when we run out of lives, here's where we're going to do game over. And if we haven't run out of lives, we'll just respawn. Either way, we want to set our health to 0. We want to go ahead and update our lives up on the screen up there. We'll go ahead and turn off our player and disable him. That way he still disappears and goes away just like normal. And then we'll go ahead and update our health bar as well. So let's save this so far. And let's go out and create that UI in Unity. So I'm going to go to my canvas, and I'm going to make myself a panel. So I'm going to right click on the canvas, go to UI, and panel. And this is going to be my game over panel. So we'll call it game over panel. Now a panel is kind of like a pop-up window that will stretch across the whole entire screen. So I'm going to go ahead and double click it here so I can zoom out and see it all here. So here's our canvas. Our UI panel is right now stretching across the whole entire thing. If you look at its anchor points, it's set to stretch vertically and horizontally across the whole window. I actually am going to change that. I'm going to anchor this to the center of the screen, and then I'm going to come over here with my canvas tool and then I'm going to come over here with my rectangle tool, and I'm going to just kind of pull this in a little bit. So basically what I'm going to do is make myself a little pop-up window here that fills up a good chunk of the screen, maybe something about like this, and we'll make sure it's centered on the X. It is. And now this is kind of a container, and this background here can be set by the color. So you do have an alpha slider, so I can make that totally see-through or totally opaque. A lot of times we make it so you can see through still to the background here a bit, so it's just floating above our game. And I think I'm going to change this to maybe a bit darker of a color, so it's a little more subtle, not quite so bright. Maybe something like this. Okay, you can pick whatever color you like. Now inside the panel we can add our other UI elements. So we're going to need a text. So I'm going to right click on my game over panel and do UI text. I always start by selecting the object I want to add the UI element to, because it'll automatically make it a child. So see how the text is now going to be wrapped up in the panel. And this is going to be my game over text. And let's move that kind of towards the top here, make it a little bit bigger. We're just going to put the big words game over inside of here. So let's just have it say game over. We'll go ahead and center that up, and let's make that nice and big. Maybe a 50-point font, and let's change that color. Let's go to Let's see, what should we do? We can kind of do a big kind of cyan, kind of a game over color there. And then we'll give them the option to play again or to quit. So that means in the panel we're going to add in 2 buttons. So let's start by adding the first button. And we'll put that kind of down here, make it a little bit bigger. And then let's make this our play again button, like so. And we'll open that up to get to the text on the button. And we'll just make that say play again. And we can make that a little bigger. And okay, and let's go change the color here on that button a bit. So let's change that to, I don't know, what do we want? Maybe more of a kind of a grayish button there. We should make it brighter. Let's kind of go in here and go with more of that bluish color here perhaps. Something that you think looks nice. We'll go ahead and do that. So we have a play again button. And then now that I've made one button and I kind of like how big it is and how it looks, I can just duplicate that button to make my quit button. So I'm going to right click it here and say duplicate. That put another button right on top of this one, so I can drag that over, and we'll just kind of line that up about like how we have it on the other one there. And we'll change the name. This will be our quit button. And then we got to change the text on the button, so we'll go in here and this will be quit, just like so. Alright, so now we've got our game over panel with some text and our 2 buttons here. Now we just have to make it so that when we click the quit button it exits our game, and when we click the play again button it's going to reload our game and start us over from the beginning. So let's see what we need to do. We're going to go into our script here now. So all we really need to do here is just turn that game over panel on. So when the game is over, out of lives, we're going to pop this panel up. Our player will already be gone off the screen and disabled because of our running out of health code that's already there. So we should be okay just to pop this panel up and then get the buttons working. So to get the panel to pop up, we're going to need a reference to this game over panel. So we're going to need that in our player script, a way to access this. And when the game starts, we're going to disable the game object of the panel. So it'll be just like that. The panel is here, but it's totally deactivated, so nothing will be active here at all. When we run out of lives, we're going to want to go ahead and just pop that panel on just like so. So we're going to reach in to our canvas from our script and turn this panel on. So I'm going to deactivate it for now because at the beginning of the game it should be off. And in our player script here, we're going to go up to the top and add a variable for that panel. Okay, so let's go ahead and just add this in with some of our other variables here that are doing some UI things. Let's make a public game object, and we're going to call this our game over panel, like so. I'm making the game object because I'm going to use a command that's called game object active, and that needs a game object to feed into it. So we'll just store this in the game object variable so we have it at the right type of variable that we need. We'll attach this out in the inspector in a moment. We're going to scroll back down now to where we are done with our game here, game over, and we will just say game over panel, and then we're going to use the set active command. And in the parentheses, if we put true, that will turn the panel on. If we were to put false in there, that would turn the panel off. So this is going to turn on our panel so that it is visible. Okay? And remember, we don't respawn or do any of the other things to keep the game going unless we still have some lives left. So that's what does that. So our player will stay turned off and we should be good to go. So that'll turn the panel on. So let's save our script. We're going to go back out to Unity. Now out in Unity, we're going to go to our player so we can see the player script. We're going to go find our variable here for game over panel that we just made, and we're going to drag the panel, so game over panel, into that variable there. So now the connection has been made. So we can test this out now. If I turn my lives to 2, because I do want to make sure I still respawn and keep playing if I have more lives. But I don't want to be losing a ton of lives here just for time's sake. So we'll turn that to 2. And so the first time we die, we should just respawn. The second time, we should get the game over panel. So let's jump up here and let this enemy take us out. Okay, so I respawned. I've got 1 life left. When I lose lives this time, I should not respawn. I should have the game over panel pop up. And there we go. So see, we didn't respawn. I'm okay with the enemies or other moving things in our game to continue moving like this. And we get our panel popped up, and we have the play again or the quit buttons that are here. So now we just have to tie these buttons in, so when we click quit, it would exit our game, and when we click play again, it restarts everything. Okay? It's interesting that we are losing lives. Let me see what's going on there. Our player actually is still in the game. We want him there. But, okay, so we left him standing here, and his sprite render is off, but his collider is not. So basically, we're still actually losing lives every time. So to fix that, if I uncheck the capsule collider, you'll notice that this stopped counting down now. Now, the player also just fell off the world, so that wasn't very good. He's actually falling now way down. You can see his Y is starting. So if we do that, then he falls off the world. But we don't really want the lives to keep counting down. So that might be a little something that we have to look at how best to fix. Okay, because we aren't ever turning his collider off. So we could turn the gravity off right here and turn his collider off so that he's can't be hit anymore. Or we could just check to see if he should take more damage. So let's take a look here. So in our collision, if we hit an enemy, we're taking 5 off for health, and we're checking to see if we're dead or not. So maybe what we ought to do is just have some sort of a game over flag that we can flip, and then we can check for that up here to see if it should even be doing the collisions anymore. So that would be an easy way to fix our problem. So let's go up here to the top. Let's add ourselves in a public Boolean variable. So let me see here. Actually, we're already using disabled. So why don't we just reuse disabled? If we're disabled, then our controls are off. And if we're disabled, we shouldn't be getting hit anymore by an enemy. So we don't even need a new flag. We can just use that current one that we have. So what we can do is if it's the enemy, we can check to see if we are disabled. If we're already disabled, we don't want to take more damage, right? Because we might be waiting for our respawn. So let's just add another condition here. This is called a complex or compound conditional statement when we put 2 conditions together. So if it's the enemy and if we are not disabled. Okay, so if disabled is currently false. If it's currently false, then it means we are enabled, right? So the exclamation point means not. Disabled is a Boolean, which will hold a true or a false. So if disabled is true, not true is false, which will cause the test to fail. If disabled is false, not false is true. For this to work with an AND statement here, both conditions have to be true. So this has to be true, it has to be the enemy, and we have to not be currently disabled. Okay? So that will fix that problem that we were just having out there. That's why it's important to play test, right? Because that's when you find out where maybe you didn't think something through and you're like, why am I still losing lives when I'm already dead? Well, now we fix that. So there we go. So we're turning our panel on. We fixed our little issue. Now we just got to go out and turn those buttons on. So those buttons are going to need some script to run. So I'm just going to scroll down here to the bottom of my player script. I usually try to put this above my collision functions. I like those at the bottom. So let's make a public void function. We want it public because we want to call this from a button click. And the function we're going to call, this will be our quit game function. And to quit the game, it's really easy. All you say is application.quit. And that will close the window that the game is playing in. Now, this does not work in the editor. So if we go to test this later on, it's not actually going to quit the game and close the editor down. But when we build this game out into its executable version that you can distribute, then it will. So I usually like to put a little debug statement in here, just so we can see if it's working. We'll just say game quit here. And that way we can test to make sure that when we click the button, it's actually going to this function. Okay, so that's quit game. Let's also make another function here for the start button. So public void. This will be play again. And play again is going to need to reload our level. So basically what we want to do is we want to reload the whole entire game. We want to take it right back to the very first starting positions of our level. So we are going to need to have access to something called the scene manager. To get that, we have to add a using tag up here to the top. So we're going to add a using, and it's Unity Engine .scene management. That's going to get us access to all the scene management type things, which loading scenes and unloading scenes is one of those. So now that I've added that tag or that using, I can go back down here to my new function for play again, and I can say scene manager dot load scene, and here I can either give it the scene as its index number, or I can give it with a string scene name. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this a scene name. And let's go take a look and see. I'm going to put a semicolon there. Let's go look and see what our scene currently is called. So this is currently called something real exciting, sample scene, right? So maybe we should rename our scene here. Let me see here. If we go into our assets, there's a scenes folder here, and that's the name of our scene. So why don't we just try renaming this to our game scene, and see it change the name up here, so it looks like that worked fine. So capital G game is what I called it. So right in here, I'm going to change that to capital G game. So that will load my scene. All right. So that's all we need to do for play again here. That will reset us back to the beginning. So I'm going to save my script. We got to do a couple little things out here in the editor now. So for our scenes to load, we have one more thing to do. We have to go to our File, Build Settings. In the Build Settings, we have Scenes in Build. So my game scene is already here. If it wasn't here, I would just click Add Open Scenes, or I could drag it in right from here. Okay, but it already had this one in. So any scenes in your game, you have to include in the Build Settings Scenes in Build, so that Unity knows that it's okay for it to load those scenes. Okay, so that's already set up. We should be good there. Let's just tie our buttons in now. So our Play Again button needs an OnClick event. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add an OnClick event. We're going to find the object in our hierarchy that has the script, that has the function that we want to run. So we want to go out and find our player, because he's got the script. So I'm going to drag the player in. From the drop down here now, I can go find the player script, and I can go find my Play Again function. So now when I click the Play Again button, it will call that function, which will cause the game to reload. On the Quit button here, I'm going to do the same type of thing. I'm going to add an OnClick event. Again, the player has the script with the function in it we want to run, so we drag the player in, go down here to the player script, and I'm going to call Quit Game this time. Alright, so now our two buttons are hooked up. Let's go back to our player here. I'm just going to give him one life to live here right now, so that we can test this out quickly. And let's give it a try here and see if we can get those buttons to work. Alright, we're going to let this enemy take us out. Okay, so our game is over. I'm going to wait just a second to make sure my lives don't keep dropping down. My health stays down. Okay, cool. If I hit quit, remember this isn't going to work in the editor, but I'll get a message in my console. So see how it says game quit down here in my console? That means that the quit button is calling that function, and if we have built this game out into its executable form, it would actually have closed the game down. Now when I hit play again, See how the game reset? My lives went back to 1 because that's what I had. I've got the health full, I've got control back. So basically it just reloaded the game just like I stopped running it and reloaded it. So that's how we can get the game back to our starting position again. Okay, so in this video we have added in the ability to quit the game and to restart it. We've made it so that when we run out of lives, our game stops playing, so we can't keep going. And we've got all those pieces in place. So that was our goal for today in this video. Thanks as always for watching, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I'll get to those as quick as I can. And have yourself a great day.